All right, guys, here's part 3. We're going to fine tune. When I left off the last one, we were here. We had a headline, a deck, a story, and a picture. We had placed the picture. We learned how to do that, but we did not text wrap the picture. So let's start with that. When you text wrap, you want to select the item that you are wrapping around, not the text. It's a little confusing. You select the item you're wrapping around. There is a text wrap menu. So those are all in window. I'm going to go to window, and I'm going to get the one called text wrap. I'm going to just drag it over here so we can see what we're doing. This choice that it's on is no text wrap. You can wrap in a couple different ways. The advanced way is you could actually have like a cutout and wrap it around an object that isn't a square. We don't need to do that yet. For ours, it is a square. So this is the choice I want, wrap around bounding box. I'm going to click on it. And that actually doesn't look that much different because remember the story was behind it, but it is now wrapping around. The problem is it's super close. Like people can't read like that where it's right on top of the picture. So I can adjust that as well. And I'm going to do that by bumping these numbers up. Okay, that's how far the bounding box is away from the picture. It's linked, so when I bump up one, it's going to bump up all of them, which I want. Sometimes you don't. And you notice even hitting that, even hitting that, bumped it up enough so that it works. Okay, so that's how you do text wrap. Okay, again, for our purposes, we're not too worried about the fact that we've got a little red plus here because it's a fake story anyway, but you would, in the event of a real story, you'd need this to be the last line of your story. Okay, I'm going to zoom back out. I'm going to use the text wrap menu again, so I'm going to leave it up there. Because I mentioned the other thing I want you to work on is a pull quote. I'm going to change my polygon back to my rectangle. And I'm going to draw a rectangle. There's two different ways to do this. I'm going to actually draw it between two columns because I don't like pull quotes that interrupt the flow of the text. I want the story to wrap around one side and wrap around the other. So that's where I'm going to put it, is right in between those two boxes. Okay, and it's not wrapped, but I can wrap it. Okay, and I can bump this. It doesn't really matter because there's nothing in it yet, but I'm going to bump up this bounding box a little bit so it pushes away. I can position this. I'm going to go to my pointer tool. You can see how there's a little more space below than there is above. And again, not that it totally matters because there's nothing in it yet, but let's center that. Now, the purpose of the pull quote is to break up long strings of text. So you want to put it in a place that kind of makes sense. And then it's typically a quote that's in the story. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste some portion of this. That's sort of the right amount of size. It's not a quote, it's just fake. I'm going to copy that. I'm not going to put it in here. I'm going to put it like out here. I'm drawing a new text box that's roughly the same size, and I'm going to Command V and paste. Okay. Now you don't want your pull quote to be in the same font and the same size as the story. That defeats the purpose. I have to take, because I copied and pasted it from the story, I'm going to take that indent off it. So I'm going to go back to 0 on that. And I'm going to make it bigger. It's 9, so let's make it 13. And probably maybe centered, Shift Command C. And then something bolder, so like heavy. Okay, and we're just pretending this is a quote. Okay, now I did this in two separate steps because I want to show you this frustrating thing that happens. When I drag this over and I try to put it in here, remember I've text wrapped it. And the text wrap does not distinguish one text from the other, so I can't really put it there yet. It won't let me because it's bumping off from the text wrap. So I'm going to leave it out there and I'm going to show you a little trick. And the trick is, if I hold Control and I click on this text box and I go back to text frame options, which remember that's where we put the columns in. This time I'm going to do this handy little key at the bottom here that says ignore text wrap. And I click on that and I click OK. It doesn't look any different. But now look, when I bring it over, I can put it where I want to put it. Okay, so that goes there. Okay. Remember that my shortcut to hit W to do the print preview mode, that's what that looks like. Now you may or may not want an actual line around your pull quote, right? It looks okay that way, but I can also click on it and I can take off the line. So it's still wrapped, but there's no line around it. And that'll look like that. Either way works for me, okay? All right, we're getting there, okay? Now I have two things there. I have the box and I have the pull quote. So this is tricky. Let's say I wanted to move it down a little bit, okay, and you're gonna get frustrated because it's like, how do I select both those things and not this thing? I'm going to go like this. I'm going to drag from here, and I'm going to select all three of these things, and then I'm going to hold Shift and deselect the story. If you hold Shift and click on something, it unselects it. And now I can just move that. I want it down a little further. Excuse me. Okay, there we go. Two other things that need to be on here. One is a drop cap. Okay, and that's the starting letter. That's a big, like much larger letter than the regular text. So that I'm going to click on that R is what's going to be. I'll zoom in. What's going to be the pull quote. Okay, again, I don't want that indented either. So I'm going to go back and take that indent off. And then I'm on the paragraph tool, which is where you want to be for the drop cap because it's right here in the middle. Okay, it looks like, you see these handy little diagrams, they all kind of look like what they do. It's 0 lines. If I change it to 1, it's still not dropped, right? Because a 1-line drop cap is not a drop. I need 2, 3, 4 is about as big as you want to go. 3 is sort of standard. But you see how now I have that nice big R that starts my story. And then the last thing that I want you guys to put on here, excuse me, is what's called a cut line or a caption. I use those terms interchangeably. And remember, we did this when we talked about the photos and I made you do ABCD captions while we were still in class. The caption is supposed to go with the photo. In our case, it's going to go underneath it. So I actually need to either move the picture up to create a little space or crop a little bit of the photo out. Like so. Okay, and then I get story down here, which I don't really want, but that's fixable. I'm going to go back to my text art. Remember, I set it at 0p3. Now I'm going to break this chain so that they're not connected. And the one I want to fix is this one, which is you see this diagram here? This is the text wrap below. I can set that. I can just push it back out until it gets those lines out of there. There. Now I have some space for the cut line, but there's not story down there. Okay, and now I'm just going to copy and paste from the story and pretend. All right, so let's take something like that. That might be an ABCD caption. Copy. Again, I always draw it somewhere else, about the same shape. Paste. Ooh, that looks like it's about perfect. Okay. Again, I'm going to have the same problem I had before, where it's going to hit that text wrap, and I don't want it to do that. So what I need to do is Control-click on this, and text frame options, and ignore text wrap, and click OK. Now I can put this where I want it to go. Oh, it's still indented, so I'm going to take that off. I'm going to drag that, make that longer. Usually, we made the pull quote bigger. Usually, cut lines are actually smaller. So instead of 9, 7 or 8, let's go 8. And then again, take that indent off. Normally, this would have with it a little photo credit, photo by Bo Bauer. That's the name of our dog. Not actually our dog, we're just fostering a dog for our friends who moved to Australia. And you don't have to do this part, but just so you kind of see how this works, I'm gonna put this in italic, Shift Command I should do it, and maybe bold, Shift Command B. There's my photo credit. And this, my friends, is pretty much a done page. All of this should actually go to the bottom. So in your case, I'm gonna move these things back down. So that goes there. And then I'm going to select these two pieces, but not the story. I'm going to shift and unselect, push this down so it's even. There. Command 0. I'm sorry. Command 0. Fit in window. And then let's go W. Perfect. Okay. This one's done. It's good to go. Do not worry about the story overlapping the text. You can put your stuff in different places. That's fine. It doesn't have to look exactly like this. I just want it to kind of look like a one-page design. Eventually, your final project is you're going to take all of some of the stories that you wrote over the course of the semester, and you're going to create a little magazine of each of the stories, and you're going to kind of do what we did here, only you're going to know more at that point. So yours isn't going to look quite so basic. You're going to have yours look cool. A couple things I need to do before I let you go. One is I need to save this. Notice here, I'm working under an untitled document, which is not a great idea, especially if this was real. And if I wouldn't want to lose all this if my computer died or something. So you want to save a little more often than I did, but right now I'm going to save as. And I don't really want it in baby ads. I'll put it in desktop. And this is, here's how I want you to, I think, save. Doesn't matter too much, but mod magazine, put your name in here, Wilson. And then I'm going to save. It doesn't matter too much where you put it because you just need to remember, because you are not going to, actually I'm going to put it in beginning journalism. You are not going to share with me an InDesign file. You're going to share with me a PDF. So that's the last thing I want to do. Now it's saved. Now I'm going to go here, File, Export. And it gives me the same name. I don't want it to be JPEG. Yours probably, the default will probably say Adobe PDF Print, and that's what you want. I just happened to, the last thing I exported to JPEG. I don't want interactive. I want print, Adobe PDF Print, and it's going into that same beginning journalism folder. Just kind of note where it goes. And I'm going to save. And there's a couple things you want to look at here. One is, for our purposes here, we don't want spreads, we want pages. It's only one page, so it's not going to matter. Eventually with your magazine, I'm going to ask you to switch to spreads, because that's what makes the PDF show up as 2 pages next to each other. This one doesn't matter. The other thing I would check is I would click on this button. Mine's already checked because I did it last time. View PDF after exporting. I would make sure that's checked too, because then it'll pop up. And then you just click export. Now, you'll get this warning saying you have overset text. Remember the red plus? It's just another warning telling you that it's there. I'm not worried about it. And it's going to take a second. And then a PDF version, I can zoom out the same way, Command minus. A PDF version of my page is going to pop up here. This is what you want to upload to Schoology, is the PDF and not the InDesign file. Everybody got it? I hope so. Good luck. Let me know what questions you have. I'm looking forward to seeing your designs on Friday. Bye, everybody.